It's showtime.
Hey!
There's no music for you to hear. But anyway, hi everyone.
Hey, we're 3/4 of the Lambda Quadrant.
We sure are. And the other one's not dead, but Anna's here. Anna's normally the one that's dead. But
Yeah.
Nikki's doing just fine.
I mean, I am
alive
dead
and
right
well.
now. I'm
Well,
Ophelia
that's true. How
after
like
she
appropriate.
drowned
There's
to
one
death
missing.
from
It's not Anna.
Shakespeare.
She's normally dead. She is dead. There's a
Nikki
lot.
is
Dead
not
inside.
with us.
She's no longer with us. I think that's yeah. I think it was Nikki. She's like she's not with us anymore because it was like you were with us the whole weekend, and then when you left, you weren't with us
Right.
anymore. But it really sounded like dead.
Was
And I was like,
that
we just want to make
was
sure.
that not? Yeah, that was not this year at Vegas, but it was like
Right,
the
that was
year
the
before when I
previous
had to
thing.
leave
Yeah.
early.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, Nikki was like, she's not with us anymore. I was like, wait, no, she's definitely with us.
I'm still a member of Lambda Quadrant, and I'm not
Right.
dead.
And not dead. Just had to go home.
Haven't we done that a
Stop
few
telling
times
people
though?
I'm dead.
Yes, it sounded like that a few times. I don't know why it always sounds like that.
I did the same thing when I went to England to play roller derby, and some really cool stuff happened. Basically, two of my teammates were about to start a fight with a stranger because they were saying homophobic things,
Oh,
and I was like tired and delirious, and I kept telling the story, making people think that it like my two teammates were like fighting each other over me. And I told the story like 3 times when I had to clarify it. Like, no, that's not what I meant. And my coach was my coach even like, Ursa, I've heard you tell the story several times now, and I think we need to work on how you introduce it to people.
oh no! That's great.
like
That's
that.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. It's not really landing the way. Oh, so I have so to oh god. So today at work, I'm a member of uh, the LGBT employee resource group at work, and so they let us do fun events and stuff. And so today we did a Halloween event, and it is also it's Queer History Month this month, not Pride, but Queer History Month this month. So we did a fun little thing, and I was in charge of the cocktails, naturally. And so I wore this, and then I also found and kind of modified a fun cocktail online that I brought, and I have it here. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so watch this.
Ooh.
So this,
That's
I know,
very
fun and sparkly and purple. Watch. So I named this drink Wanda's Revenge, and you'll see why. So I add lime juice to it and stir it up, and it turns red.
Oh,
Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's the coolest.
yeah.
Isn't that neat? So yeah, so I
Does it
presented that at
have
work today.
Oh no, they wouldn't. So I was so because I have butterfly PT.
Oh yeah,
Which
it's like that. It's like that. It's butterfly
yeah,
peat. Yeah, they make
yeah,
it's gin that they make out of that.
I love that. Yeah. So
So you put
because for those that
acid
don't
in it,
know,
and it makes it.
it's blue. It doesn't have a flavor.
Right,
The
right.
the
They just
tea
use it to
itself.
make
It's
it
just
purple.
blue.
But
And then
I didn't
if
think
you
of it like
what I
that.
like doing is making mixed drinks with it and adding like lemonade.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I
And
just
and,
add
and
lime
then it
juice
becomes
to it. But
purple. And yeah.
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 So what's the chemical mechanism that makes that happen? Give me the science.
It's
It
like
becomes
litmus
acidic.
paper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Or like cabbage. Same thing. I don't know what
Mhm.
the process is, but when it crosses over the I don't know something chemical something. Or like what is it? Hydrangeas, right? The soil, like the color of the flowers will tell you how
Mhm.
like the soil is, stuff like that. But I don't know the chemical situation. What made this happen? So that was fun. So that's why I brought my sparkly fun drink that changes colors, which is fabulous. That's all.
That's rad.
Yeah.
We have an employee resource group where I work, but where I work is like 80% remote, and so it's mostly a Slack room and Zoom meetings. Now and
Yeah.
again.
Oh, that's us too. Obviously. Yeah. We're all remote too. But yeah, I got like stood in my kitchen in front of the bar today and made drinks for people for our event, so it was cool.
Oh,
And then we
that's
did
it.
like some like history trivia.
You just have like your phone with you, uh, like you're like a YouTube cooking show or something.
Oh yeah, well I had like my like webcam for work set up
Yeah.
like so I could like both hands the thing. But yeah, I did the whole like situation, and then we did like LGBT history trivia. It was cool.
Hell
So,
yeah.
and we got to buy everybody lunch. Anyone who showed up got to expense lunch for coming. So
Nice.
I was like, now everyone's going to know that our work events, you get free lunch and we let you drink. So hope the word spreads and people come hang out with us. We had a good crowd though. It was fun. So it was good.
That is sick.
Good stuff. I have exactly 0 plans for spoopy season aside from this.
Oh,
I'm throwing a party on Sunday that I'm calling Halloween Hangover because I could not get my shit together for it to be done in October. Because I had a musical I was in and
that's
just
right.
grad school and everything. So I find a lot of my friends were too busy for anything in October. So I was like, what if I do it the first
Super busy.
weekend in November?
That's
And
fun.
call
Why not?
it Halloween Hangover. Because also I
Why
find a
not?
lot of people like throw their costume together last minute and then they're like, oh, if I'd had more time with that, now I've thought of better ideas with it.
Oh yeah,
And
and
then
then you can
and
give
then
them
so
a
I'm
little
like,
extra
now
time.
you can do that.
You can do the
Like,
few ideas that you had for Thursday. You can get them done Sunday, and you'll be great.
yeah.
That's cool. I love that. Yeah, my Professor Turo was crazy complicated with the EL tape and like figuring that out, and it was nuts. Anyway, so it was spent a lot of time on it. For Halloween, we are all dressing up as Peg Bundy, identically, and walking around West Hollywood.
Absolutely incredible.
There's just going to be like 10 wearing the exact same outfit and wig and everything. Just 10
That's
Peg Bundys
so
walking down the
funny.
streets. And that's what we're doing tomorrow.
Fantastic. I'm going out of town this weekend. I'm going to St. Louis to go to City Museum, but it's for a friend's birthday. It's not.
So many
for
people I know are
spooky
going
season.
out of town. That was the other thing. I was like, I've got good friends coming, but then I also have a friend who was like, sorry, I'll be in Rhode Island. Another friend was like, I'll be in New Hampshire. Another friend's like, I'm out of town for a wedding. And I was like, all right, what is happening? I was like,
Life.
Goes out of
Anna.
town for Halloween. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, we figure we could talk about some spoopy Star Trek stuff.
Yeah.
You know, a franchise noted for its brilliant horror.
I mean,
I can start with the original series if anyone wants.
oh yeah, let's hear that one.
Let's go.
So there's the episode Cat's Paw, which I think it was supposed to be like the first one that had Chekhov in it, but they delayed its release because they wanted it to be released closer to Halloween. So and I was right before the stream reading about it, and so it was released on October 27th of whatever year that came out. October 27th, 60s. And it has this like, it starts creepy, like honestly, of like there's this one dude, I think his name's Kelly, and he's like, or it's green, it's like Kelly or Green, I don't know. But then he's like, they're just like, oh, like he explored the planet, like and then he didn't come back for some reason with the others, and they're confused, and then they get like a, hey, one to beam up, and then they're like, or he's the only one to say like one to beam up, and they're like, what about the rest of the landing party? And then he's just like, one to beam up, and they're like, this is so confusing, beam him up, we'll get answers then. He beams up, and they're like, and the second he's done transporting, he just falls over dead, and they're like, what the heck is happening? And they like hold him, and then out of his mouth comes another voice that is just like, you must come down if you want to see the rest of your crew. And like, it's like spooky. I don't remember exactly, but it's very like based in like, they might even, and then so they, of course, all the senior staff beam down to this hostile place.
Of course.
And then
that sounds
like,
real bad. Let's all go.
3 witches that start quoting Macbeth of like double trouble, and it's like, what is happening? Like, and basically,
you guys get cable?
And basically, there's these 2 aliens. There's one whose name I forget, and she's a woman who like can turn into a black cat, but then she also like is a sexy lady. And then there's also Korob, who's this guy in this like wizard robe. And it turns out that they're like, this is how humans like, right? Because they like they were trying to be like more like human culture, but they only knew about Halloween. Essentially.
That's amazing. They
But
did
also they're
reference the
like,
historical documents.
yeah, kind of thing. And like, so they like put Spock and Kirk like in a dungeon with their arms up, and I'm sure that's
Oh my
a lot of people's
god.
saved pictures because they're shirtless.
Right?
And that's where we learn
Right.
that Spock is canonically very hairy. And that's honestly my
Oh,
biggest
And
issue with
bless him
Strange New
for it.
Worlds.
Bless
okay.
him.
'Cause he should be
You know what?
hairier.
Things
Anyway.
change. Things change. Let people wear their body
Yeah,
hair
it
how
turns
they
out
want to.
he stopped waxing come the original
Maybe he
series.
wants to wax now. Maybe that's his thing now. We're not going to judge that.
And when he was younger, he waxed, and then when
See?
he
Yeah,
got
and then he's
older,
like, I'm done.
yeah,
It's good. Whatever.
totally get it.
Yeah.
No, that's my
I think
joke.
that's
Of I'm like,
literally how it
I don't know,
happens.
Spock's supposed to be hairy. Anyway, so he and there's even a bit where like Kirk's like trick or treat as they like start to like figure out that it's all Halloween stuff. It's a fun episode, I won't lie. It's pretty good. And then at the end they like see the what the aliens actual forms are, and there's these like little guys that look like they're made out of pipe cleaners, and they're like "Dee, dee, 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 dee," and then they like
Wow.
disintegrate and die.
Oh
um
no.
Oh, they're not. It's like a whole thing where like the two aliens are kind of vying for power, and it's Kirk has to make out with the lady, all that fun stuff.
Of course he does.
But I loved it, especially
Gross.
when I was first getting into Star Trek as a kid watching it. I adored that episode. And then it's one of the few episodes that remembers that people died. Because at the end they're like,
Oh.
so it was all just kind of like a weird, sick prank kind of thing. Or it was almost like a joke or a trick. And then Kirk is like, it's, or it's like not a harmless prank. Kelly's still dead. And then the episode, and he's like 4 to beam up, and then it ends the episode. And you're just like, oh, Kirk is actually kind of pissed about this.
Wow.
Like, good, that's refreshing. Probably because the guy who died was a gold shirt, not a red shirt.
Oh, okay,
And but really fun fact about that episode, it was written by Robert Bloch, who also wrote a famous novel called Psycho.
Oh, there you
That
go.
was later adapted by Alfred Hitchcock. So.
Definitely a horror episode.
And like when you think too about like it was network TV, what they could do as far as spooky in the 60s, it's kind of like for Star Trek original series, it was scary.
Right, sure. Yeah.
For their like
yeah, that makes
sense. But although I will say I think Charlie X taking a woman's face away is like one of the scariest things ever, where like she like turns around a corner and she just has a blank face and is like that scared the crap out of me as a child.
Yeah.
I've got one that I want to talk about. I desperately need to talk about, hang on, this guy.
Oh my god.
This feels like such an underappreciated Voyager episode, and I think it is genuinely good.
Okay.
I
don't remember it that well, so please tell me about it. No, I don't remember it that well.
No, I don't remember this one either. I've watched them all, and it's not striking a bell. So tell us.
Okay, yeah. So, and like clear, like not an episode that I think is talked about super often, and I think it is genuinely good. The group and anyone watching who has heard us talk about Star Trek before knows that I am a passionate defender of bad Star Trek. I think bad Star Trek is great. I actually don't think this is an example of bad Star Trek, but I think a lot of people think it is. So in this episode, Voyager approaches this planet where there is evidence of a disaster happening. They hail the planet and they get this response saying, everything's under control. We're all in stasis below the surface. Please don't interrupt our timeline, et cetera, et cetera. But turns out, it said they were supposed to wake up in like, I forget the exact number, but it was something like they're supposed to wake up in 10 years, and they found out that it had been like 100, and that the stasis like hadn't worked properly. Right. And so they were like, well, maybe we should investigate. And they go down to the planet and they find these stasis pods, and they figure out that these stasis pods are interfaced to these people, and that they're experiencing this like reality world that the computer and their brains are collaborating to create. And so they create an interface, and I'm pretty sure it's Harry and Balana that end up going into this world, and they find this dude who is never named in the show. He's just called the Clown, I think, in the script, and all of these folks behind. And basically, it is an episode where you have the people who are in the thing are connected, and they're bringing their fears of like whatever planetary disaster they were running from, and their fears had collaborated to make this world a nightmare world where they're consistently being tortured by this dude and all of his minions. And they in fact find that like one of the people who was in the stasis pods had died, and that person had died of a massive heart attack, and they find out that it's because this guy can do things in this place that makes you so afraid you literally have a heart attack and die.
Oh my God, how do I not remember this? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember this at all.
I know. How did I?
Yeah.
I remember his face though.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, like, I am making it sound much more of a serious tone than the episode actually has.
See
to
that?
be clear.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
That's classic Star Trek where you're like, that's a messed up concept. Can we
Right.
Right. Like,
yeah.
like the concept is genuinely terrifying, but it is like, I mean, the setting, like there's circus music playing in the background, and they do like I think at one point Harry Kim's like, "Are you a virus?" And they're all singing, a virus, he thinks we are a virus." And it's all like very silly, but also I think genuinely scary. Like I was kind of unsettled by this episode when I watched it.
Right.
And I mean, if you think about what's happening to these people, like it is actually terrifying.
Right. Golly, yeah, that is terrifying. Those poor people. So what happens? They get them out
it's
of
Michael
there.
McKean playing him?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I see it.
see, I
Oh,
love
yeah,
Michael
yeah.
McKean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he like apparently accepted before he'd even read the script, because he's like, well, then I get to say I've done Star Trek. It doesn't care what I don't care what I'm doing.
That's such a Michael McKean move.
Right. Right.
Well, so they end up tricking him, because what they figure, like Janeway's big epiphany moment is that fear wants to be resolved, and like it doesn't actually want to exist forever. And so she does all of this like double talking. She joins him in the thing, and she does her like, I'm a very smart captain, so I'm going to outsmart the computer thing.
Right.
But what ends up actually happening is she offers herself to him and says like, I will stay here with you if you let these other people and my crewmates go, and my crew go. But turns out it's just the doctor play acting the captain, and so they trick him, and then he's left all by himself.
I see. Well, that's what you get.
That's what you get.
Well, at least we would hope.
He's a computer? The clown guy?
Well, he's so it's basically it's a computer that creates a universe based on the people connected to its expectations and wants and needs, and that includes their fears. And I think the simple explanation was basically like, when they went into stasis, they were very, very afraid and nervous.
Yeah.
And so they brought that in.
Manifested, yeah.
Right. And that's the reality the computer played. And so
it's like, that must be what you want.
Yeah. And which of course made them even more scared, and it fed into it. And so they had been stuck with this dude for years.
That's awful.
Yeah.
You're right. That is a horror episode.
Right. Like genuinely unsettling and scary.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to rewatch it.
I know, yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
To find out how different the tone was.
The what?
Yeah.
The tone, because
the thaw.
Oh, the thaw, sorry.
Season 2, episode 23.
Oh, nice. Okay. The thaw. Wow, yeah, I don't remember that at all. Like I watched it through, but it has been a hot minute for some of them. So wow, that is fun.
All right, Randy.
So cool.
Anna and I have gone. What's yours?
I don't have anything. I don't have anything like
Oh, come
groundbreaking.
on.
I mean, so the
The one that
obvious one.
Gates
I know the one with Gates. I mean,
directed?
that was the obvious one is that was where the dead people sit up in the beds, right? I don't have a big like story about that other than like
Oh, yeah.
I literally like seeing that I was like, oh, this is just a horror movie today. Like that's where we are. And it's so. But one that I do like, and it's probably fairly common too, though, is what is it? Schisms, the one with the where they get like
Oh
abducted.
yeah.
But like the like
Yeah.
that
I had that one on my
haunted
list
me.
too. Yeah.
Like that shit haunted me. Even though it was completely ridiculous. My favorite ridiculous moment in there is when they're in the and I do have a rebuttal for myself even. But when they're in the holodeck, like recreating the scene or whatever, and it's like
Yeah.
it's a table, and it's like this, and then like oh no, metal, and it goes from like a conference table to like a medical chair. I was like, I'm sorry, I feel like we skipped a few steps. And if maybe we were
Yeah.
talking about this before, but my self rebuttal to that is like, oh, it's kind of like AI now, though. Like, who knows
I
what
was
the
gonna
hell is going
say
to come
that's
up
like
with?
AI.
Like, you type something in, and like, it very well could come up with that. So I was like, okay, I guess it's forgiven because it's kind of that's what it
It
is,
just
right?
meant that it happened to be right in this case.
Exactly, and it could have been very wrong.
But if you're just
It
trying
was
to
it was
like
as
be like,
correct as
no,
the plot needed to be.
it's just
It
a
was
metal
yes,
piece. Yeah.
and maybe a little more. But yeah, but yeah. So that one has
Yeah.
always creeped me out just because of the like like I guess they don't know what happened and like forgetting things and then like hearing shit that reminds you of something that you like. So yeah, I thought that one was really kind of
That
Well, and
episode
it
is
starts
fun.
with
so
them being
X-Files too.
yeah.
Oh
Wh-
yeah.
It
Which I
start
like
wh-
X-Files.
and it starts with them being sleep deprived, which is like always
Right.
a premise for weird stuff
True.
happening
True.
because
True.
that's like
True.
very scary. And I've been like, not really anymore. But like when I was a kid, that's like I was afraid to go to sleep because like monsters under my bed, like it's a
Of course.
stereotypical
Yeah.
thing, but it was real
Right.
in my childhood.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I was actually scared of that sort of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good premise.
Yeah. And then of
Yeah.
course you run into the thing like, oh, you're just sleep deprived. There's not actually anything going on. Yeah, and so like this thing's going on that no one believes when
And
it's
it's a
very real.
reoccurring thing in Star Trek of sleep deprivation, which is, I mean, Star Trek
Yeah.
often does a lot of like
That's
things based
true.
on
Yeah,
real
that's
life
true.
and
Yeah.
science, so that does make sense. Of
Yeah.
like, so there's that one, and then
It
there's
does come
Deep
up a
Space
lot though.
Nine when we first meet Sloan in Section 31, and it turns out that
Ooh, yeah.
Bashir was not really on Deep Space Nine. He was in a simulation the whole time, and they're saying like, you're actually a Dominion spy, but you're like a sleeper agent, and you don't remember it because of when you were in captivity. And it turns out that he's been sleeping less the whole time because they are simulating
Mhm.
when is night and day, and so
Yeah,
they're
I believe we
deeply sleep
left you a whole
deprived as
hour.
well. And
Yeah.
then yeah, and then also in Voyager when she's like, "Is this your plan to keep me from like she's like from keeping me not sleeping, deprive me of coffee." Like I don't even remember which episode that is. I just remember her being like, "Is this your plan?"
Oh God.
Um,
Amazing.
yeah.
So there's a problematic one we could discuss.
There's so
So
many
it's a
problematic ones we could
this is
discuss.
true. This is true. I'm thinking specifically of Frame of Mind from TNG, where Riker's in the asylum and basically like being
Oh
gaslit into
yeah.
thinking he murdered someone.
Yeah.
Like good
That
horror
one came to
premise,
mind too
but
when she was talking
uh,
about sleep deprivation. Yeah.
lots of
Classic horror
really
premise and a good one.
problematic ideas about hospitalization for mental health and mental health issues and what that
Yeah.
actually looks like. It's really
Is that the one
uncomfortable
where
to
he's
watch.
like,
Right.
where he runs out from the stage and is like, "Who are
Yeah.
you?" And it's like
Yeah.
Lieutenant
Yes. Yeah.
Lieutenant
Suna.
Suna, sir.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good one.
For
I also
sure.
And when I show a
I
glimmer of independent thought, you strap me down, you inject me with drugs.
I mean, sadly, that was very indicative of a certain time
Yep.
in the world. So it's not like it was untrue. Just hopefully not at that point in history.
Well,
But
the
yeah.
portrayal of the oppression of the facility, I think, is real enough. But the
Mhm.
portrayal of people with mental health
with mental
issues
health issues.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That part.
Which
Yeah, no.
if
The
you'd like to
doctors
learn
is the
more
part
about
that. Yeah.
yeah. If you'd like to learn more about that, Nellie Bly, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. She was a investigative journalist back in the day and was a
Oh,
badass. And she pretended to be insane to purposely be committed so she could
oh, that
write
does sound
about
familiar.
the treatment of
Right,
them.
right,
Oh.
right.
They
Wasn't there a
kind
movie
of
or a TV
used
show?
they've used her inspiration in a lot of
Oh,
things.
okay.
American Horror Story, the Asylum
That's what.
season, they
Okay,
had a
I was
character
thinking
who's
about.
inspired by
Okay,
her and like a lot of that.
got it. Okay,
But so she
so
has a whole book that's called 10 Days in a Madhouse. And literally the way she got out was not by like being clearly sane, because
uh,
she said that she even stopped pretending to be crazy very early on because she realized they didn't care.
oh shit!
And she thought she was gonna have to keep up an act, and she's like, no, I don't. Like, and that it
Wow.
yeah, and that the way she got out was Pulitzer, the actual guy Pulitzer, had
Oh,
known she was going undercover and doing this, and like after 10 days came in and was like, let's get you out of here.
that's smart, obviously, to set that up.
And
So, like, hey,
yeah.
just in case I actually do get stuck, I mean, you got to plan for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow,
also
that's
she'd been planning
crazy.
to get herself, like, committed into, like, the more intense side to, like, really
Uh,
see everything, but she was like, "Oh, it's not safe for me to do that."
not even safe for
But
that.
yeah, it was
Wow.
interesting because like, one woman she met, fully sane, just didn't speak English, spoke German, and they were
Oh
just like, "She's
no.
crazy, she's saying
Well, I mean, to
nonsense."
be fair, German does sound really angry all the time, so maybe that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
And then
kidding.
there
I'm
was, like,
kidding.
another
No offense
woman.
to any Germans, they probably would say the same
Yeah.
thing.
And then there was another woman who just, like, she's kinda just, like, been stressed out, had one mental breakdown, needed some time, and now and then
Right.
they wouldn't let
Yeah,
her
like a
leave,
human.
like, and
Yeah,
just, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. It was, like,
Oh
a
yeah, stuff like
lot,
that is
like
what I mean. It was very real.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
giving
and
people
so
lobotomies. We did
yeah,
that.
I think there was even a woman that, like, basically her husband wanted to marry someone else, and it was like, "She's
Right?
crazy," and it's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, so much of this stuff. I wrote a game design document for a horror video game based on that one in college. So anyway, but yeah, and she's also the woman who proved that you could go around the world in less than 80 days. And she was like um cataloging her adventures, and she met the actual author Jules Verne while she was on the adventure, who was like, this is awesome. And it was a big deal because she was a woman traveling unaccompanied, and at the time they were like, this
Oh,
woman couldn't possibly
how did
Oh,
do that.
scandalous.
Possibly.
I bet she wore
Oh,
pants
Yeah,
too.
I bet her underwear
yeah.
didn't go
Imagine.
down to her knees.
And then Cosmopolitan was a brand new magazine trying to get big, so they sent another woman to compete against her
Oh hell
to turn it
yeah!
into a race.
It's the
And that's
first
why Cosmopolitan
big
is like
race,
that
whatever.
blew up Cosmopolitan. So
That's
You
anyway,
know,
that
hilarious.
was just my little tangent.
It's
I'm
the very
looking at
first Amazing Race, all women.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at these this like list of scary Star Trek episodes, and it's not, I wouldn't call it an overrepresentation, but I guess it probably just speaks to the 90s of it all, and that like so
Yeah,
many of
sure.
them involve convincing people that they are quote unquote crazy when they're not.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
like obviously we talked about Frame of Mind,
Uh-huh.
but bringing DS9 into it, the episode Whispers. Do we remember this one where everybody's acting like O'Brien's been replaced by an
Oh my god,
alien,
that is
and
such a good episode.
it's a really good episode. Um,
It is the epitome of like make O'Brien suffer.
oh,
Like,
it is
well,
a
no, it's
classic
not
of the
the epitome.
genre,
Because I would
IMO.
say the
That's a good word.
epitome of that genre is the one where he's time hopping
Ooh,
and with
debatable,
radiation. I would say
debatable.
that I would say that's the worst one because he literally doesn't make it through the journey and passes himself on to a different version of himself.
Yeah,
And
that's fair, but Hard Time, I think
and
he suffers
literally
a
at the
little
end
bit
he's
more in
talking to
that one.
Keiko and he's like, I feel like I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's real. That's real. Um, but so in Whispers,
Also the prison one.
basically the they're going out there like talking with the species, the Piradans, who I think are fish people, if memory serves, when you see them. Um,
Yeah.
and when he comes back, people are just like acting weird towards him. Like people are like hiding things, like keeping secrets from him, treating him differently,
Mhm.
and he's like very weirded out by it all. And he like starts to be convinced that, of course, there's something wrong with everyone else. And
Yeah.
eventually he has to pull a bunch of his O'Brien magic to get off the station, because like he tries confiding in Odo, and Odo, very much like, oh yeah, I'll look into that for you, buddy. Yeah,
Odo
you and
didn't
me.
know. It was that Odo had been away, and also Jake didn't know, because it's one of those things that not everyone was told, because it wasn't necessarily it was more need to know.
But Odo figures it out though, right? Because Odo tries to help track him down.
Yes, because so Odo was away on some other thing. He comes back and he's like, no one, they won't have been able to get to Odo yet, so I got to get to him before anyone else does. And he talks to Odo and is like, things are acting weird, and Odo's like, got it, I'll look into it. And then then he calls him to his office and he's like, okay, what did you find out? And he's like, so tell me more about this. And then he's like, dear God, they got to you too. And that's like a really scary moment, and because you're like, oh no. But also Jake is supposed to come over, or when Jake was supposed to like learn something from O'Brien that he was going to teach him.
Right, because this was before Jake said, I don't want to join Starfleet.
And then Cisco is like, hey, I'm going to tell him he's not going to be doing work with you for a bit, just because he needs to work on his grades. He's got to study. And he's like, oh yeah, I get it. And then he's talking to Jake, and Jake says something about I gotta go and do my homework. And he's like, that's good, Jake, get those grades up. And he's like, my grades are fine, I gotta keep them that way, and like leaves.
Right.
And then he's like, that's so weird. And then he's like pushing it more and more, and then later he sees Jake, and he's like, Jake's the only one I can trust. He's like, Jake, you gotta help me. And then Jake looks at him and says, everything's gonna be fine, Chief, okay? And then runs and like alerts them all, like, and he's like, no. That's such a good episode. Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
We see it. We'll talk about this one as well.
Oh my
God.
God.
Rays were always creepy.
Oh, yeah. We have not talked about it yet, but it is, yeah.
Always were creepy. Always.
Yeah, I have history in the organized atheist community, and there are atheist edgelords who are like, I don't like DS9 because there's too much religious stuff. And I'm like, okay, but in their universe, that those gods are real and the devils are
like, literally real.
And so,
literally,
yeah.
Very much there.
Yeah. So I forget the name of the episode, but basically Keiko comes back from a trip through the wormhole, and she starts acting a little weird, and turns out she's possessed by a power wraith, and she's trying to manipulate things to get them to like point this beam at the wormhole so they can kill all the wormhole aliens. And she ends up being revealed to Miles, because stuff like she's like planning his no, she reveals right away.
Yeah, she says right away. And at first, O'Brien thinks it's about to be kinky.
Because Miles and Keiko are so horny on Maine all the time, and it's one of my favorite things about Star Trek.
Yeah, she's like,
they are unapologetically horny. So
she's
good.
Like, first of all, I am not your wife. And then he just goes, oh yeah? So who are you? It's one of my favorite moments in Star Trek.
Yes, of course.
Even when she got turned into a child, she's like, hey, what's up? He's like, no, what? No. No.
He's like, red light.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Kai Wynn will come up later on in this as well too, because there's some moments with her.
Can't talk about evil without talking about her.
Yeah. I'd be interested to talk about one that I think was meant to be, but kind of missed the mark a little bit.
Can I just say real quick that with that episode where
she's
possessed by the Paul Wraith, I don't think of it as horror until one specific moment. I think of it as kind of like, oh, this is a little creepy and it's like thriller. Maybe that's just my precipice of fear or whatever. But specifically when he like sent Molly to stay over with a different family during this time, because he doesn't want this possessed woman around. At one point he's thinking about telling the truth and like coming clean. Then Keiko calls him and she's got Molly on her lap.
Yeah.
And she's like brushing her hair. And she's just and he's like, oh, I thought you were with like, Molly, honey, I thought you were with the other things. And then Keiko just says, she missed her mommy. Isn't that sweet? And I was like, that's the creepiest thing. Like,
Right.
so scary.
You're gonna invite the aliens to end the world later, aren't you?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, and she's very
because
much
she did.
and she's very much in front of Molly. Like, I told her you have X amount of minutes and X amount of seconds to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like very like,
yeah.
yeah. So there is a Voyager episode that just doesn't quite land. I don't know if it's supposed to be scary. I don't know. Or no, I'm sorry. DS9 episode.
Oh, okay.
Vantica. I forget the name of the episode, but it's early DS9, and there's a ship that is like in trouble, on fire, in danger, and they rescue the crew, and the detective wakes up. Hey, Dave. The crew wakes up and they're like, oh my God, where's Vantica? Where's Vantica? And they're like, okay, he's dead. And they're like, no, he's not dead. And turns out this guy can like transfer his consciousness into different people. And so they're like chasing this disembodied entity between people. But turns out he's been possessed by Bashir. And I just need to say, I am a Sid fan, to be very clear. But his performance in that episode.
They can't all be winners.
I don't honestly, yes, I remember that because of that.
He's talking about the body, and he's like, this body is, how do you say it, fit as a fiddle.
Oh God.
And like he delivers it exactly like that. It's
rein that in. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember watching that episode, and then I was like, weird. I was like, guess Sid wasn't up to that task. And then like after watching the rest of the series, and then watching just more stuff that Sid was in, like he's in Peaky Blinders and he's fantastic, and like other things, I was like, I think he got weird direction. I don't know that, so I'm not gonna like put on the director. I'm like, I just, based on his performances and everything else, what was he told to do?
It totally happens though. Like, and if you don't do it the way that they tell you, then they just make you do it the way that they tell you, and then that's the one that they push for the edit, and like you have no choice. Yeah, no, I can see that happening, because if somebody has a like vision and they won't let you, and be like, okay, well, I don't agree with it, but I'm gonna do it. Yeah, so I can see that.
There was a movie that Karen Gillan was in that I was.
Sorry, go ahead.
I watched a movie that Karen Gillan was in, who's like clearly an extremely talented actor, and I watched it and I was like, I hate this. She is so bad. And then I was like, no, she's not though. She is absolutely not. Like I was like, it's either a stylistic choice that is not for me, and that's okay, or she just got bad direction. Like either way.
I honestly, my thing with like Shatner, even, I always point out, I'm like, Shatner is an actor who does exactly what the director tells him to. Because if you see just different things he's done with different directors, it's like he can be the most calm, chill, dialed back actor, or he can be like going nuts. And I'm always like, I just think he's an actor who's just like, if this is what the director is telling me to do, that's what's happening. And I'm like, all right. Sometimes it's balls to the walls crazy. But I don't know. But I don't know. And that's the thing too with especially early Star Trek, they were so like, this is genre, that it's like, it's so campy. Which I love. Because I like campiness. But yeah.
So my other potentially maybe underrated, because it's so, well, no, I don't know. Anyway, Remember Me. that one creeped me out
Yeah.
because the people
Yeah.
start
People just
disappearing, and they don't play it like that. But I think if you like explain the concept to someone without them having seen the episode, it would sound way scarier, right? Because like these people keep
Yeah.
disappearing and you're trying to figure it out and blah blah. So I think the concept of the story is a little bit scarier than it like came across. But like that would be scary as hell too, right? It's like
Mhm.
why aren't there people? It doesn't make
Yeah.
any freaking sense, and everyone else is like, it makes total sense. We're just you and me are roaming around the
And, like
galaxy.
and, like, also as so I have a very good memory, and many people don't have a
Right?
very good
Yes.
memory, and that's
Don't you hate
fine.
when yes,
But
yeah.
sometimes I'll go nuts when I'm like, "No, this is how this happened." And then people are like, "I don't remember this." And I'm so like, I remember watching that episode, and Gates does such a good job with it that I was like so stressed out because I saw myself in her so well, and like I don't want to give any specifics because it's just too much of a bummer, but like in politics, when people will be like, "Oh, well, remember this person did this," and I'm like, that's not how that happened, though, or like
Yeah.
that was 2 years ago. We were there. I remember it. Do you not remember it? Like and things like that. And it's one of those things I'm like, do people like not have memories? And like, especially when people get like so easily convinced of what they're told happened versus what did happen.
Sure, yeah.
And that like and so that episode creeps me out so much. I like have only watched it twice because it creeps me out so much.
Yeah,
Also, the
it's
episode
awful,
Gates directed, which his name is
Genesis.
Genesis. Such a creepy
Yeah.
episode.
That's
I
true.
already
The,
hate
like,
Barkley, and then he's a
spider and
spider?
yeah.
Disgusting.
Do we all know the trivia about Barkley and the spider? We'll
I
say it
do,
for
but
anyone
you can share
who's
with the
watching.
class. Yeah.
Gates directed that episode, and she originally wanted Barkley to come like dropping out of the ceiling as the spider. But during the filming of that episode is when the Northridge earthquake happened in Los Angeles,
right.
and so they were not able to do that. So they had to minimize what they did. So that's why you got to just bang on the window instead of the whole thing, because it was right in the middle of the earthquake, and they were like, we couldn't do it. So there's your trivia for that episode.
Really, I'm so glad. Like, it would have been such a good shot, and like her instincts as a director are so good. But I'm so glad that isn't what happened.
I know. Also, that right? Can you imagine him like dropping
would've-
down on the seat, like on top of? I'll be like, oh.
Oh my god! As a teen
The
watching that, I
glasses.
would have actually just straight up pissed myself. Like, I would have just been like,
Oh.
and started crying. Like,
So
this is not
this
for
is
me.
this is only slightly tangential. When I saw that episode, I was a teenager and I was still in my like I'm a good Christian phase. And in the
Oh,
late
same
90s,
here.
early 2000s, the very in vogue thing was that like evolution isn't real, y'all.
Oh right, okay, right.
And I remember seeing that episode as a teenager who was very much in that space at the time, thinking to myself very smugly, like, well, that's cute Star Trek, but evolution isn't real. So it's obviously fiction.
Well, if it, in fairness, that's not how de-evolution would work.
Also,
Oh,
that.
absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely
Also
not.
that.
Again,
Also.
everyone would have turned into like primates except for, some of the aliens and of course
Or somebody, yeah.
Oh, well, and of
Well-
course Barkley would have still been a spider because he's a creep.
Well, not
Right.
necessarily, because we all share a
Could have
common
turned into
ancestor.
fish.
So at some point, if you go back in our genetic tree far enough, we have common ancestors with spiders.
That fish
and
that crawled out of the primordial sea or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we all would have been there at the same point in the process.
But that was the I think that was the science behind it or whatever. There's like not everyone de-evolves to the same point in history. Like it kind of depends on whatever. I think that.
But I was
Yeah,
watching it with that episode with my father, who was a science teacher, and he was just like, "That's not how that works."
Right.
And like even like the physical
like,
aspect of the whole
no.
thing, like how are you going to grow legs and then they're just going to fall off after? Like what happens? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like you don't have any scarring from those extra 4 legs. Like what is what? I don't. Yeah. But whatever. It's fine. At least
at the very
kind of
least-
makes sense. But
At the very least, everyone on the ship would need like extensive
plastic
surgery.
Yeah. Like have these like dead arms hanging off of me now. Help! Can you imagine? Oh
Yeah.
god.
That's where all my extra legs are.
Yeah. Oh, they're just hanging off.
Um,
Fine. Dermal
oh,
regenerator.
We could also talk about I have mixed feelings about Barkley as a character, and also because Dwight Schultz decided to be Rush Limbaugh.
I don't have any mixed feelings. They're all the same.
No, I mean,
and they're all that. Yeah.
I mean, I like Barkley as a character. Not that I think he's like a really good person and does good things, but I think he is at least a recognizable a recognizable version of like what having severe anxiety looks like for at least some people.
Yeah, for some assholes, yes.
Exactly.
But yeah, point taken. Yes.
But the episode where the stuff is like caught in the transporter beam, this is actually another like quote unquote I'm not crazy type episode.
Yeah.
Because notably, when Barkley comes on board the Enterprise, he has an intense phobia of the transporter, and has somehow gotten through his entire Starfleet career without, which is wild, because I don't like this. There's no way you get through Starfleet Academy without having to use the transporter. Like there's just no way.
Or them giving you some kind of test to be like, hey, are you gonna freak the fuck out when we put you in the transporter?
Right.
Like, don't they give you like all of these like emotional like tests and like everything? And they never would have found like, oh, he's gonna freak the hell out.
Yeah.
They test you on Jeopardy just to make sure you can actually like be in front of a crowd and film.
Wow, that's crazy.
And you're telling me they didn't test on Starfleet for the transporter?
You know what other crazy bitch didn't like the did she? Did Dr. Pulaski hate the transporter, or am I misremembering that?
No, I think you're right about that. I don't think it was as intense as Barkley, but I think it was just like like I avoid it when I can kind of thing.
Yeah.
That
Which
tells you
is
about
also
people.
something McCoy did in this is also something McCoy did in the motion picture, but I loved that he did that in the motion picture because we've seen the 3 seasons of original series where things kept happening with the transporter, and it's almost like old McCoy is now such an established person in Starfleet that he's like, I have enough weight to throw around to say no. I will take a shuttle. I have seen too many horrible things happen.
They always fix it though, almost.
Yeah, right.
But only after a few people die.
Well,
yeah. Like,
but no, it's really fixed this time, guys. I promise.
Usually just not important people, so you just got to make sure you're important.
Listen, they don't always die. Sometimes they split into their good and evil half, and the evil half attempts to, for censorship, grape the yeoman. And then they get that's a whole episode of TOS. And then when he has to go back into his good, like when he becomes whole again, his good part and evil half, he still has the memory of trying to attack her. Like, and she's like, your evil half explained it to me. Like, so I know it wasn't actually you. But she's talking to him like after he's been like rejoined. And that is an acting choice that I actually really love that Shatner did, is he's like right, and he doesn't make eye contact with her, and he just continues to avoid eye contact with her for the rest of the episode. And I was like, honestly, good choice.
For sure.
Because wouldn't you just be like, I have these memories, like, talk about a horror episode.
Would you? I don't know. I wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't want to put that on someone else. What is that going to solve for me? You know, they know I don't want to kill them, so no. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, no, but but you'd have the memory of trying to like do that to someone.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't share that with them. Is all.
No, I'm not saying.
I promise I haven't time traveled and thought about killing any of you.
No, he doesn't share that memory. He just makes a point to avoid her. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair thing that he's like uncomfortable.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah, that is. Yeah. But
we could also talk about Macrocosm, the Voyager episode with the giant bacteria that are stabbing everyone on the ship and dragging them to the holodeck.
I don't remember that one either. I need to go back and rewatch Voyager.
I love when I actually like hear myself saying out loud the plot of some Star Trek episodes, because like obviously like we're all like Star Trek fans, have been for a very long time. This is all very normal for us. But then you say a sentence like the giant oversized bacteria that stab people and drag them to the holodeck. Like, Yes, that's a very normal thing that has happened.
Listen,
And
the
Dr.
greatest
Crusher has
moment.
sex with her grandmother's boyfriend, who's a
Yeah,
ghost that lives
I
in a
was gonna
candle.
say the
Exactly.
greatest moment of my
Exactly.
life is when Issa Briones at Vegas and her mother came over to our table, pointed at both the Horicons and the candles, and was like, "I don't get these references. Explain them to me." And I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
So the premise for this episode is it is shortly after the Doctor receives his mobile emitter, and he decides to go on his first away mission, and they receive a distress call, and this planet is being afflicted by this disease, and some of it ends up coming back in the transporter beam with the Doctor when he comes back on board. And I forget exactly what the process is,
Ow.
but these are like regular sized bacteria or viruses that end up growing to be giant sized. Any Vegas goers
Shut
will
up. Shut up.
any any
No.
They had
any
lizard
Vegas
babies
goers
on the
will
wizard.
know meteorologist Katie Nick.
Yay!
Oh,
I think-
that's what she's cosplaying?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Oh my god. Oh
I
my god.
rewatched that. I don't remember that at all.
Oh my God.
These weird ones have just seeped out of our brains. They were just too weird at the time.
But it is like, and I don't know, it plays on, I guess it plays on phobias that I know exist, but are probably not necessarily my phobia. Like, obviously, if that actually happened, I would be terrified.
Right.
But seeing it on TV is not necessarily the scariest for me, because I don't really have I don't necessarily have a phobia about like bugs and stuff like that. And I
Right.
think it kind of it starts to get at that ick a little bit.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's not something that's gonna like keep me up at night. Like, oh god, what if bacteria get huge? Like, I'm okay. Yeah.
It's more the queer awakening from seeing Janeway in the tank top with the phaser and the bandolier of the antivirals.
Oh my
That was a very queer awakening moment for me as a young one.
Sounds like there's an anime called Cells at Work, which is basically like Osmosis Jones, like a bunch of like anthropomorphized cells in the body working together, and it's a fun anime. And you learn a lot about biology in it, but it's they're constantly just like, it's a cold virus, we have to fight it, no.
God.
And it's so funny.
Does anyone remember Body Wars with Elizabeth Shue at Epcot? An old throwback.
Oh
There was
my
a ride
God.
called Body Wars, and you went like inside, so the cells were huge. But Elizabeth
that's
Shue
fun.
was the host.
I mean, I
Oh.
remember Magic School Bus.
This is a good one. I forget the name of the episode, but it's the cellular peptide cake
Cellular
episode.
peptide cake kills them.
Oh,
Kills them
yeah,
all.
he screams.
Yeah.
I will say
Uh,
those are my favorite.
Want
Like,
some?
those are some of my
Yeah.
favorite depictions of what dreaming is like. Because yeah, sometimes dreams are just random.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But that's a good one, because it's there's like the unreality of having your dream world come into your waking world, and that's pretty scary. But on top of dreaming itself being a new experience to you, like, because this is all happening to Data, like
Yeah,
he
those are the first dreams you have. Like, oh
Yeah.
god, yeah,
Yeah.
after
Yeah,
seeing
honestly,
your dad
right, yeah,
That's-
yeah.
with the blacksmith and the wing and all of that. Those are the first
Right,
dreams he
yeah.
has afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, Q mentions when he becomes a human, he mentions when Picard's accusing him of like playing them for fools and like attacking them. He's like, I was preoccupied with something terrifying, and I was going through a crisis and no one was helping me. Where were you? And he's like, what happened to you? And he's like, I suddenly felt all of my like strength leave me, and I to the point where I had to lie down, and then I couldn't even keep my eyes open, and then it's just like and then there were, even though my eyes were closed, there were flashes of images in my brain, and I couldn't move, and and he's just like, you fell asleep. And
Yeah.
she's like,
Oh.
that's what that was. You do that all every night.
He's
Very
right
fair.
though. If you think
Very
about it a
fair.
little objectively,
Yeah.
that's weird.
Yeah, and
He's
terrifying.
never slept before, so he's just
Right.
terrified.
Yeah.
Like, I
He's
feel
probably
like
never
no one is
even
ever gonna
felt
do.
drunk. Like, so
Say again.
he's probably never even felt drunk. So the idea of
Oh
not being
yeah,
in total
Right.
control is like,
yeah,
Right. Yeah, true. Yeah.
yeah. No, no one will ever do body horror better than reality. Bodies are just weird. And that's, I think one of the things that I really like about good sci-fi is when it takes a look at something that we take for granted in a way that is completely outside of the way that we think about it, like
Yeah.
observations about sleeping and like what
Right.
a just an objectively weird thing that is that we do. But of
Mhm.
course, like most of the time we don't think twice about it because it's very normal. But if you
Right.
think about it from outside our perspective for even a second, like that
Right.
is
Yeah. And it's so
Yeah.
your brain can wash itself? Like, what? Why aren't we cleaning as we go along? Like, what does that mean?
In
Yeah.
some cultures, they
Weird.
siesta.
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
naps
washing.
Yeah, no, it's totally.
naps is an integral element of your culture that is just far ahead of wherever we are.
It's true. It's true. It's true. We really missed the mark on that one.
That's also like speaking of just like things we take for granted and stuff. I mean, this is not something I take for granted. This is something that I hate that exists. Is our healthcare system, and there's an episode of
Oh.
Voyager where basically they kidnap the doctor and they're like, hey, we always need more doctors, which, and he's like trying, and it's like, oh, we don't have enough of this medicine, like, to save lives. And then they're like, wow, you're such a good doctor. We're going to take you to the higher tier, the people who have money. And, it turns out that the life-saving medicine also like slows some aspects of aging. So they have had plenty of it upstairs just to like help with wrinkles and shit.
Awful.
But it's like, but they're the better people. You get that
Right.
because they're wealthy, so they get
Yeah.
It's a
healthcare.
very foreign concept, I'm sure, for
Yeah,
a lot
some-
of humans.
Some
Like,
of the
that's
best
a
Star Trek social-
terrifying episode, but it's just real.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to
Too
say. The
real,
best
yeah.
Star Trek social commentary is when they just do reality with different names.
Yeah, and pretend like it's an alien instead of literally you.
Nothing fantastic about this except the like weird
No.
foreheads, you guys. This
Yeah,
is just what's happening.
It's literally what's happening
Yeah.
right now. People can't see it sometimes. That's crazy. All right, we're kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
Any
been a lot.
final
Let me
thoughts?
give
Final?
one
Yeah.
shout
Oh,
out.
please, yeah. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One shout out to a newer Star Trek episode.
Ooh,
The
yes.
episode that was basically aliens, but I didn't mind because I like aliens, in Strange New Worlds with the Gorn.
Oh yeah.
Where they were
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
like running from the Gorn that had been
Oh,
bursted out of a
yes.
guy and like
Yeah.
and all that stuff. That was terrifying. And I mean, for anyone who hasn't watched it, I don't want to spoil, but a character I loved died. And I'm still mad about that.
That's fair. You know what's funny? And now
And
that
that
I'm
was
thinking of
creepy.
also that, I think that current TV shows are able to sort of work with the tone of the episode better, because I feel like back in the 90s, because Star Trek was so cheesy and horror was so cheesy, the stories overlap a little bit more, or like it's more obvious that it's a creepy thing. But the tone for something like that, they just change it, so it's not like horror, right? Even just like the music that they use or whatever. But back then, I think both were so like quote unquote cheesy that it was easier to come up with ones that seemed horror-ish. That's my 2 cents.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Discovery
happy spooky season, friends.
1 when they
Oh,
first
yeah.
meet the tardigrade.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did that Klingon just shush me?
That's terrifying.
Yeah, but it doesn't really feel like that. Like if you think back about it, yeah, but yeah, no, it's true.
Well,
There's a dude
happy
who's
spooky
like
season.
ripped. Yep, happy sorry. I can talk about Star Trek forever.
Well, I hope everyone has a good time and stays very safe.
Yes.
If you're going to imbibe substances, do so in a safe environment around people you trust. Get home safely.
I love that.
All of those
Yeah.
things.
And don't forget
Also remember
to
to
go out
vote.
and vote. That's right. Go vote. It's happening in just 6 days. Well, it could happen already, but go do it either way. Vote early and vote often. And it's true.
Mid voter fraud. Vote as many times as you can.
No, every election.
Yes.
Yes, is what the phrasing means. That's all it means. But yeah, everyone, have a great time. Be safe. Send us pictures of your nerdy Halloween costumes. I would love to see that. I'm gonna post mine. I haven't yet. I was a Pokemon character, so show us the nerdy stuff. And we will be back again next month sometime. We'll let you know when that is, and we'll do the thing again. So thank you.
Thanks for hanging, friends. Have a good night.
Night.